Going back to first principles, why would we steam hay? Why would you want to steam hay? What's the benefit of steaming it as opposed to soaking it or feeding it dry? Once upon a time, the horse was a wild animal living in packs on grasslands and roaming, and it spent 60% of its time grazing and the rest of its time socialising. We have changed that behaviour by bringing the horse indoors, having domesticated it. So particularly horses which spend a lot of time indoors are not eating fresh, moist grass. They are eating the equivalent that we give to them, which is a dried hay. Now, the problem with drying hay, of course, is that it then becomes dusty, and because it's not as fresh as grass, other problems will occur within it. Most notably, you will get mould spores, you will get bacteria, fungi, and yeast forming over time. All of those respirable particles can be inhaled from the dry hay deep into the lungs of the horse, and they can cause COPD and RAO and other respiratory problems. So many people choose to combat that by soaking their hay for their horse. You can either spray it with a hose, or alternatively you can dunk it in water. If you spray it with a hose, you will reduce the dust, the respirable particles, but only a little bit, only about 40%. If you soak the hay, you'll get rid of a lot more. You'll get rid of about 90%, but other problems will occur. If you steam the hay in a HAYGAIN hay steamer, you will get rid of about 98% of the respirable particles, and you will also help to purify that hay. By which I mean, if you have soaked hay and you've taken it out and you put it aside, first of all, you have a problem with all of the liquid, the effluent, which that water has become. Because it has a very high BOD, biological oxygen demand, it's actually 9 times more polluting than raw sewage. It is going to damage the waterway. You shouldn't just dispose of it. Leaving that aside, the problem with soaking is that you will leach out the sugars, so the water-soluble carbohydrates. You will also leach out the nutrients within that hay. So having bought the food for the horse, or the feed for the horse, to give it, you're now devaluing it by soaking it, and that's why the water has gone brown. So you've managed to reduce the respirable particles, but you've degraded the hay. And moreover, the longer you leave that soaked hay, the worse it's going to become, with particular reference to its bacteria, which will go up 10,000% in 72 hours. Its yeast will go up 1,000,000%, extraordinary statistic, and its moulds and fungi by 150%. So it's very important that the hay is purified before feeding, because all of those things can create problems for your horse. So therefore, you should steam your hay, and you should steam it in a machine like this. So if I come across and point out inside, you will see that there are 2 manifolds, each of which has got 5 spikes sticking up through which the steam is blown. This is very important, that the steam goes into the hay so that we are steaming from the inside out, because you cannot steam from the outside in. There are other hay steamers on the market which try to steam from the outside in. Most of these are homemade with a paint stripper steamer and a wheelie bin. They're not going to work for the simple reason that the steam cannot penetrate the hay. It has to be steamed from the inside out. Otherwise, you haven't got a hay steamer, you've got an incubator, and you're making the problem much, much worse. So it's very important to purify the hay as effectively as possible using a HAYGAIN hay steamer, in order to ensure that the bacteria, the yeast, the moulds and the respirable particles have all been reduced as far as they possibly can. And with a machine like this, you'll be reducing all of those things by around 99% than by feeding dry hay or soaked hay. using the HAYGAIN hay steamer is very simple. This is a HAYGAIN 2000, which is conceived for 4 horses or more, and it consists, like all of our products, of 2 major units. There is a steamer unit and the chest. The steamer unit is connected to the chest via this yellow pipe, and in terms of operating the machine, again, very simple. Simply unscrew, fill with water, ensure that there is enough water, that the machine is on a level ground, that it's not going to produce steam above the chest, which is going to interfere with your electrical supply, and then simply close the lid. On the lid you will see that there is a thermometer, and this thermometer has a green band. This indicates that the steam or the temperature in the middle of the hay has reached the correct level to kill the bacteria, the moulds, the yeasts and the fungi. It shows sort of 80 to 90 there, but it's actually in excess of 100 degrees in the middle of the hay, and it should stay there for about 10 minutes in order to effectively kill all of those things and to purify the hay. Thank you.